Good morning, everyone. We're starting now the ECOP program's Australian New Zealand Nodes webinar number 4, unique opportunities and where to find them. I wanted to start with by acknowledging the Whadjuk people from the Noongar Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I stand today, and the traditional custodians of all the lands from where you are dialing in today. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Indigenous peoples attending this webinar or watching its recording, especially Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. So I would like to start with a quick introduction to our speakers. You can see them on the screen. We have today Rebecca Duncan talking about superstars of STEM. Lydia Larson is going to talk about the National Geographic and Nature Conservancy externship. Shannon Dee is going to talk about Science Meets Parliament and Homeward Bound. Pablo Fuenzalida will talk about Our World Underwater Scholarship Society. Matthew Zhang is going to talk about the Capstone program, and Chantal Blachot is going to talk about the ABC Top 5 Media Residency. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to them. Rebecca, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Let me just share my screen for you. Okay. Does that all look okay? Great. So yeah, I'm just going to talk to you today about the Superstars of STEM program that I've been in since 2025. So it's a 2-year program. And basically, this is an Australian program that trains just women and non-binary people to be public role models in science, technology, engineering, and maths. And it's been around since 2017. And like I said, it's this 2-year program. So you become part of like a 2-year cohort. And in a nutshell of the program aims to provide really intensive communication training to those to speak confidently with the aim that you will then be able to go on television, radio, newspapers, magazines, that kind of thing, and be identified as an expert and a go-to commentator for science news. And yeah, I should point out as well, it's run by Science and Technology Australia. And they pick 60 women non-binary people every 2 years. So it is highly competitive, I would say. I think they don't publish the exact statistics, but it's around about 5% of applicants get selected. So at the end of when I tell you about what I've got out of it, I'll make a few notes about the application process and what I would recommend. But I think in terms of like what this program's given me and how I would I would first of all say I would highly recommend it. And what it's given me is actually so much more than media training. I expected the media training, and there's been plenty of that. So I've got some images here of different things we've done. Like we do a lot of meetings with practice meetings with journalists, go into the actual TV studios, do a lot of on-camera practice. So you get a lot of training. And I expected that, but what it gave me beyond that was actually confidence that I could be somebody and should be somebody that should be speaking in these public settings. I think it's really easy to, all of us really easily feel like imposters and really feel like it's one more year, next stage of the career, that kind of thing. And then I'll be able to do that. But this program really taught me that actually, we need to be in these spaces and speaking publicly on our research and communicating that well. I think the other thing to remember with this program is that it's really transferable skills. So personally, I hope to stay in research, but even if you weren't sure, they're really transferable skills to take into like public speaking, communicating with any decision makers, stakeholders. We get a lot of training around how to handle difficult questions under pressure, which is great just in life in general, personal branding, all that sort of thing. And that's great for, grants, leadership, any role, whether it's in research or not. You also get loads of opportunities within this program. It's quite a high visibility program being run by Science Technology Australia. So, for example, we go to Science Meets Parliament. That's included in the program, fully funded. went to Prime Minister's Prize for Science. And you get a lot of other networking events where they put a lot of big wigs, I guess you could say, in the room. So if you're, and they also teach you how to network. So you get to apply those skills in real time. And one other thing that's a critical part of the program is school visits. So I've got a few pictures there of visiting in schools. And this is something that they train you to do, but then you're also expected to deliver on, and is really rewarding because it forces you to actually go and be a visible role model. And I guess one example I feel like is worth sharing is I think most people in the room are probably marine scientists. I didn't actually say, but I am as well. And I work specifically in the polar regions. And I went to Broken Hill High School. And Broken Hill, in case you don't know, is a very remote high school in regional New South Wales. And a lot of the kids there who I was speaking to and sharing science with had never seen the ocean. So that was really eye-opening to me that this is a critical part of communication too. And I guess just finally, the network that you gain from this is really incredible. It's not an accident that I've got a picture of skiing there. It might seem a bit out of place, but that was, we went skiing like with some girls that I met on this program. So I actually like did a trip together. So I think, it's a very valuable network. We have a WhatsApp group where people are constantly sharing opportunities and building each other up. And so you make real friends from it. And that type of benefit really goes beyond the end of the program. So we'll come to a close officially at the end of this year, but I have no doubt that the benefits keep going well beyond that. I don't know how I'm exactly going for time, but I guess just in terms of application, like I said, it is really competitive, and you do have to submit a video with your application, which I think might also scare people. But I think what's important here is that they're not looking for people who are already in the media and are already like known media personalities. That's like totally not what this is for, because those people are already doing it. This program's for people who have the potential and want to be a good communicator. So you don't have to be a natural extrovert. You don't have to be already out there. But if you have an interest in this, then I highly, highly recommend it. And I think the main bit of advice I would say is to let yourself like really shine through in the video and in the questions that they ask you. And the second round is then an interview, which is a great opportunity to show yourself as well. But the main bit of advice I'd say is also reach out to previous superstars. Like, you're more than welcome to reach out to me or others that you have contact with to give you some advice on the whole process. So definitely recommend applying. And it's just a really great program for confidence and communication and opportunities and network. And applications are opening either soon or now for the next round. The only other thing to mention is you need to have either a PhD or a lot of, I think it's 5+ years of relevant work experience. So check the eligibility. But once you're eligible, then very much recommend applying. Thanks.
Thanks, Rebecca. And I think you're right. I think the applications are open right now. So folks, get in on it. Lydia, do you want to follow on?
Yeah, you're gonna have to bear with me one moment. My computer gave out right before this, so I am on a different device today. All right, can we see the slide? Right, perfect. All right, so hello everyone. My name is Lydia Larson, and I am a recent grad here, and I study marine biology and zoology. I graduated about a year ago from James Cook University, and in my last year of uni, I actually stumbled upon this opportunity on social media. Now, it is an 8-week program, part-time, completely remote, so you can do it from anywhere as long as you got a computer. And the premise of this is that you essentially just choose a marine conservation issue facing a community and create a story on ArcGIS that you present in front of a panel of professionals. and you are then eligible to receive the stipend. Another part of that is that you're hearing a lot from these professionals and these really esteemed organizations and how they got to where they are and what path they took. And overall, the application was really, really easy. I recently went back to look at it, see if things were the same, and I believe it is. It took me about 10 minutes, and there were only 2 written questions that you have to respond to, which first is why this issue and the community. And I don't have my old responses, but I wanted to go pretty broad and talk about nutrient runoff since that was a big thing that I had been learning about. That was an issue in Queensland with sugarcane farming and the grazing lands and all of this excess nutrients seeping into the coral sea and affecting the Great Barrier Reef. But it also is a really big thing in the Great Lakes region in the Midwest in the United States, as well as what caused a lot of the dead zones in the Baltic Sea along the coast of Sweden. And I thought this was really cool because these are all places that I've called home at one point. And so I thought that I would go from that direction. Now, let's see here. I don't know how much time we got, but I do have an example of what my final ArcGIS story map looks like. But for anyone that doesn't know what that is, it is just a more engaging type of website where you can interact with certain components of it, as well as do map inlays. And I thought that was really, really cool because I hadn't gotten to get too much GIS experience while I was in school. Now, a whole nother component to this is that you're able to present your idea of solutions for these issues. So your own ideal project or research that you would do to help. And this isn't something that I personally pursued at the time just because I was still trying to get my degree and I knew I wouldn't be able to give it the attention that I wanted to. But it's something that a lot of people in my cohort did. And it was really incredible getting to watch and just be part of from afar in that respect. But for me, I was just doing this more broad discussion of the issue at hand. Now, the second question is just, what do you want to gain from the program? And I said, well, I want to learn about GIS and ArcGIS. I would love to hear from professionals from these organizations. And I really believe that I got that. But if I click on the map here, this is just an example of what mine looked like. I don't know if we can see this on your guys' end.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Perfect. Well, like I said, you just got interactive components here and a map inlay. And I don't know why it's not loading right now, but everyone's looked very, very different. And it was very cool to see what everyone had worked on. But although I didn't leave with the startup funding or my own project, I really believe that I left with what I came for initially. I familiarized myself with ArcGIS and GIS software, and I really like that it sort of, it targeted to a broader audience rather than just scientific audience in a less academic way. Because throughout school, I had been doing, papers and talking with scientists and all this type of stuff. And it was a very neat way of doing things, no real leeway. And what I liked about this is that I really focused on trying to get the information out to as many people as possible in a very digestible, easy format. And I also learned, I was told not to say this, but I really, really liked that it gave me more confidence. I know Rebecca was talking about this as well, but I felt it was really difficult to try and reach out to people and organizations about opportunities and ask about their work and their research. And this completely changed that for me because through the program, you had to do a lot of this. I did community surveys and got to hear feedback from people in the general public, as well as reach out to researchers in Mexico. There's only a handful that are looking at these jellyfish through a peer in my actual program. And I also got to speak to a researcher at my school at James Cook University. And she even did me the favor of walking me through some of the before and after visuals of these heavy contaminant exposure on the jellyfish themselves and the close-ups of the tissue, which to me was really, really cool. And I didn't realize how many people actually are open and happy to take the time for these early scientists to discuss how they got where they are and what they're doing and what they want. And so I thought that was just really, really cool. And ever since that opportunity, I've been trained to take more and more opportunities to reach out to people that I look up to and organizations and ask about their work, any upcoming opportunities, that type of thing. And it has opened some doors. I'm looking into going to my master's, hopefully. And I have started a conversation with someone who I really, really admire and hope to maybe pursue research under, as well as another person who I did my interview with the jellyfish, also offered a position to do research under her at James Cook University. And although at the time, once again, I was an undergraduate student, I wasn't able to do that. I was incredibly, incredibly flattered just to be offered in the first place. And I really believe that this opportunity opened doors in that respect. But I think this is perfect for almost anyone. We had a large cohort of people that were coming from all different types of careers, people who weren't in marine science whatsoever. And I think really if you're interested whatsoever in research policy, education, communication, or just conservation more broadly, the program gives you an opportunity to explore real-world issues while building these practical skills and professional connections. And although I didn't further my project, I got to see a lot of people. I had the same thing as Rebecca, where we had a WhatsApp group and we would meet up on these calls outside of the actual program times, during and after. And seeing what they got up to was really, really incredible. I believe one of them went on to even have one of her documentaries with these interviews with fishermen post online as well. And that was, yeah, just really, really rewarding to see. I love hearing from other people, seeing what they're doing. And yeah, I would say anyone who's going into this, I wish I had been more aware of that portion with the startup funding, because then maybe I would have taken a step back and prepared around that a bit more. But I don't see a lot of opportunities that sort of give people the chance to do that. So I would definitely say anyone who can do it, you have nothing to lose, everything to gain. But since this is a big component of it, you can really take off with it if you're in the right place. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Thanks a lot, Lydia. Let's continue then with Shannon. And Shannon's going to be talking about two programs today.
We do Science Meets Parliament first. So yes, hi, I'm Shannon D. And last year in 2025, I was fortunate enough to attend Science Meets Parliament on behalf of the Australian Marine Sciences Association, or AMSA. So AMSA is part of a member of Science Technology Australia. So they send 2 or 3 delegates each year to Science Meets Parliament. And they have a application process where you basically write in a page of why you should be sent. So yeah, I was very fortunate to be selected. And the program is basically, sorry, my dogs are barking, is a intense 2 days in Canberra, one of the days at Parliament House. And they basically consist of panel discussions and lectures on basically the realities of policy and making change and fighting for science basically to have a say within policy, but the realities of it from the side of politicians as well. So you're asked beforehand to have your pitch ready to go. And then throughout the 2 days, you're constantly practicing your pitch because everyone you meet asks you, what do you do? And that's not just marine scientists, it's all different types of scientists and engineers, and people from different STEM backgrounds. So you're constantly being like, okay, I'm Shannon, I study blah, 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 blah. This is why it's important. And then on the second day, you actually get the opportunity to have a sit down meeting with a few other delegates and a politician. So that's really where you get to finally deliver your pitch. And that was really, really cool because we actually partnered with a few other environmental science type people, and we met with this politician from South Australia who was a legend, and she instantly was so excited that we were either marine scientists or enviros, and she was like, okay, shark bites, what are we going to do about it? So it was really cool that she was also excited to see us and talk to us. But yeah, I think for me it was really learning the lessons of, we all care about our research, but if we want to translate it in a way to make change and action, you need to have an understanding of where policy is at the moment, or strategic plans, policy-wise, and how to, pitch your research in a way that is really catchy, to the point, and really know your why and know the dollar value of your research. So time and what it's worth to the Australian community and economy as well. Because if you're just passionate about something for the fact that it's cool, like, politicians aren't going to give you the time of day for too long. So yeah, that was really, really valuable for me, and also meeting so many incredible STEM people from all different backgrounds, not marine scientists, was really, really cool as well. But yeah, I think if there's questions at the end, Rebecca could probably also answer some questions about Science Meets Parliament. So with that, I'll probably move on to Homeward Bound. I will share my screen. I remember how to do it. So unfortunately, Homeward Bound has recently shared that they are discontinuing at the end of this month. So there won't be another Homeward Bound program, at least in the near future. But so I just thought I would talk about the highlights of it for me and some of the key takeaways. And if you have an opportunity to be part of something similar, I would definitely recommend doing it. So Homeward Bound is a women in leadership, women and non-binary people in STEM leadership program. And it was founded with the idea that there's an insufficient number of women in leadership positions within STEM. And especially, more and more so today, we really need people leading with a vision of empathy, which is becoming less and less, unfortunately. So throughout the program, it's basically a year online with women and non-binary people all over the world. And you meet every fortnight for a 2-hour session. And that journey snake thing on the left is kind of like the different terms that we would focus on. So you start with the leading self section, and this can be a little bit brutal. You basically send off a survey to 8 people that you've worked with before, like managers or people that you have managed, and they anonymously judge you on 240 prompts. And then you get your results back, and they partner you with a leadership coach, and they go through each of those sections and what you're strong at and what you're weak at, which could be pretty eye-opening. And then you also do this for yourself as well. So you can compare how you see yourself to how other people you've worked with see yourself. So that was through LSI. I forget what it stands for, but other companies, other companies do run this as well for their leadership person. So if you're in a company, I would suggest suggesting it to your higher ups as something to do, because it was really valuable. But then we go on to leading others and how to have influence and leading as a collective, because working together is more effective and encouraging than just trying to work alone. And another essential, really valuable part of the program was the personal strategy map, which I've put there. And people who have done Homeward Bound previously that I've talked to, this is something that they keep applying again and again throughout their careers. So basically, it's kind of like a self-reflection, maybe at the beginning of the year when you're looking at your goals for the year, or if you're looking at changing jobs. And basically, the key part of it is that you identify the values that you align with, and then basically use them as guidance for strategies to reach your purpose, as in not like woo-woo purpose, but your what you want to achieve. I want to be a key player in, I want to help sustain the ocean for the future. That's your purpose. And then it's okay, what actions are we going to do to get there? And this is in relationships, so not just romantic, but in your do your family and stuff, and you yourself, what training yourself you're going to do this, and then through work, how are you going to do that? So it's kind of a whole really holistic view of it. But for me, that was really cool, because I was going between jobs, or looking for jobs in the future, and it was really cool to actually go to search for a job, not just for the sake of having a job, but something that actually aligns with my values and what I ultimately kind of want to achieve in my life, or help achieve. So then a big part after the online section for a year, everyone comes together and meets somewhere in the world. And previously it had been Antarctica, which was the major draw for Homeward Bound previously. But Homeward Bound also aligns with the vision of helping Mother Nature and help care for the planet. And they were seeing over the past 9 years that it had run that basically, climate change was becoming more and more prevalent, and there were hundreds and hundreds of ships going to Antarctica. And, it feeds into that saying of everyone should go to Antarctica, but also no one should go to Antarctica. So they changed strategy and went to Tanzania, which ended up being incredible, because we really got to see not just the ideas of Western leadership, but Eastern or African leadership, where it's really community-based, and there's all different levels of quiet leadership, and really it's not just one person in a suit yelling at people leadership. It was really I almost want to say affectionate leadership. Everyone there is so warm, and when you talk to someone, no matter who they are, they want to hold your hand and stare at you in your face, and they're so present, and they're listening so intently. And it was just such a cultural wow, this is such a perfect place to be for this program. So basically we had 70 women from all over the world, doctors, engineers, miners, construction managers, any branch of STEM, they were there. And we were also really lucky that part of the guiding coalition, the mentors of the program that were there in Africa, were 4 of these women from different areas of Africa, Christine, Abner, Ania, and Masimbi. So these are all just like iconic queens from different parts of Africa, and they were so animated and just like inspiring. So it was really great to be able to connect with them. And so we met for 2 weeks and we looked at firstly what makes poor leadership, different types of leadership and different types of learning styles, and different views on leadership. And then looking at strategic planning and funding, different types of influence. And we also did quite a lot of poetry, which was interesting in itself. So yeah, the main teachings that I got from this, especially the in-person experience, was to put your values first, and being strategic to strive towards your purpose, and working as a collective or a community, having grace for yourself and others. Like everyone makes mistakes and everyone's going through different things at different times. So it's a lot of the program was about like, don't be reactive, be kind of like put an understanding foot first before just like villainizing someone or yourself. And encourage people who are quiet to speak up and people who talk all the time to shut up. Like they might be brilliant, but it's important to give everyone a voice. Owning your privilege and yeah, deeply listening and being present. And also that different points of view and people from different backgrounds and professions, their voices and inputs can be really, really valuable, especially when planning ideas and projects. Having that external view can actually be really, really useful. And also connection and personal connections build influence. So I guess feeding into as well what Rebecca and Lydia were saying, now I have a personal connection with these, 60 to 70 women from all over the world. And we have not just a WhatsApp group for these women who went to Tanzania, but WhatsApp groups for everyone who's done Homeward Bound ever, and the Perth group of women who have done Homeward Bound. And, 5 of these women, we went and climbed Kilimanjaro after this together. So you could just message anyone and be like, hey, I have this idea, da, 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 and people will flock to it and help you out where they can. A group of women randomly from all different Homeward Bounds randomly went and rented a castle in Scotland to work on. They were translating like ecological guides into different Indigenous languages. So all of these women from different Indigenous backgrounds went to Scotland together to work on this project. So I guess, unfortunately, because you can't apply for Homeward Bound now, I would just suggest any program where you're going to get exposed to people from all over the world and you have the opportunity to build those relationships, and not just with marine scientists, but people from different STEM backgrounds. I think it's really, really useful. And yeah, I think people need to also think about leading with empathy and also having personal boundaries and putting your values first. So yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say on that.
That's great. Thanks, Shannon. Lots of really cool information. Pablo, do you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you everyone for being here as well as inviting me. I feel very privileged to be on such a panel with lots of cool people. So let's get into it. Let's see if we can full screen that. Welcome. Fantastic. Hello, everyone. My name is Pablo, and I'm going to be talking to you about the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society. Unfortunately, like Homeward Bound, this was a scholarship that was running for 50 years. Formerly, it was called the Rolex Scholarship, and there were 3 people a year who got it from all across the world: North America, Europe, and Australasia. And I was the last Australasian scholar. So I'm going to be talking about this scholarship, not in the sense of trying to encourage people to apply to this one, but to any opportunity that may arise in the future. So before I got this scholarship, I was pretty much coming out of being an undergraduate student at the University of the Sunshine Coast in Australia. I had just finished an honours studying shark capture and movement. I was a rescue diver, and I wasn't really sure who I wanted to be in the future. And this scholarship was very scuba diving focused, but it was also not necessarily science based. There was a lot of previous scholars who had just an interest in maritime field work, being on boats, or photography or videography. There's a lot of filmmakers, technical divers, and all sorts of cool people that have interacted with the scholarship in one way or another. But when I was applying, I set myself 3 goals, which kind of got me the opportunity, and that was to become a better diver, to explore science communication more, as well as to explore the world of marine megafauna movement. Because in my undergrad, I got a double degree in animal ecology and business, focusing on sustainable tourism, and I'm very interested in how science can communicate itself a little bit better. So that's a little bit about it, and all of these people are sponsors and or people I interacted with throughout the scholarship. What I got out of it was a lot. It was an opportunity that lasted a year. So it was 12 months, and you pretty much just get given a whole bunch of money, like 40, 50 grand, which was incredible, and all of this cool scuba diving gear, and get let loose. So it was really a dream for most students as well as for me, and it was one of the funnest years of my life. How I structured it was kind of finding some capstone internships and ideas. And one of the speakers earlier mentioned that they were a little scared about reaching out to labs. I also was very scared reaching out to labs, but I did, and they were the best experiences of my year. A lot of previous people try and do lots of things and run around the world, but in the theme of climate change, I also tried reducing that to kind of do a little bit of slow moving and spend 1 month at one location, and learned lots of different things. On the scuba diving front, I jumped in as a rescue diver with around 40 dives. So I was very new to scuba diving, and I got to do my dive masters in Indonesia and instructing course eventually as well. Previous people do a lot of tech diving and have gone that route and applied that in the research world as well. I tried to look into science communication, and I found out that I didn't like it so much, which I'm not afraid to admit. It is a whole art, science communication. A lot of people do it really well. Some people not so much, but I just found that I personally really enjoyed being more of a researcher than talking about my research. And I found when I was writing blogs and trying to communicate the things that I was doing, although that is super duper important, and I don't recommend anyone not do that, I just personally prefer doing the fun stuff of getting in the water and asking those really fun and interesting questions as scientists do. So that was really awesome. I also got my Coxswain's grade 1 near coastal, which is a maritime ticket here in Oz, which lets me drive commercial vessels. So I did a couple of internships scientifically, one of them being the most interesting one, working with whales. I ended up reaching out to a lab in Chile, where I was born, in South America, and looking at the side of movement ecology. I'd never worked with those little tags that you see in the front here, called CATS cams. They're little biologgers, and I wanted to learn some new skills. I saw this as a year of unpaid free labor, and so I thought I might as well make the most of it, and learn as much as I can in as short amount of a time as possible. And I reached out to this lab run by Susanna Buchan, who works out of Chile and works with fin whales, blue whales, and all sorts of really big, cool animals, and just offered to analyze their data. They had a lot of deployments, over 100 of them. And I ended up getting invited to go out into the field, which was definitely a highlight. This is a little baby fin whale. So this is just here to hypnotize everyone because they're really beautiful. It was easily like probably the highlight of my entire year. We got to go out into the Atacama Desert in Chile and spend every day on the water trying to look for whales and then tag them. So when they come up to the surface, as this one does, we whack that little camera on it, and that has all sorts of scientific equipment. Also has a camera that records when these animals were lunging, which has led me on to what I want to do, well, what it's set up for me in the future. So I'm in the process now of trying to build a PhD and apply for one in the next 6 to 12 months. And this opportunity has given me so many skills, both analytically in the coding sense, as this example, as well as physically in being able to drive boats and scuba dive. I also used both of those things in tourism sense. I just finished working on an island for 6 months. So those skills were really, really transferable across different sectors as well. So that's a bit about me and the opportunity I got, and I'll leave the rest for any questions that anyone has. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thanks, Pablo. Matthew, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to try and share my screen as well. 1 second. Slideshow. Can everyone see my screen? I
Yes.
assume so. Yeah, okay, perfect. So hey everyone, thank you for the invite to this webinar series. I'm Matthew Zhang and I'm currently a student at the University of Western Australia, and I'm here to share 2 opportunities that I've been involved in while getting my degree. And my degree was the Bachelor of Earth and Marine Science, so I did a double degree. And currently I'm pursuing a Master of Geoscience, so something that's not entirely in the marine science realm as most of the presenters here. The first one that I'm going to speak about is ANZIC. So ANZIC Masterclass is basically a 2-week program where you get exposed to an array of different science, from geophysical modeling to geochemistry to micropaleontology to geobiology. And it covers a lot of different aspects that cover both earth and marine science. So if you're interested in both of those realms and are still undecided of what you want to pursue, this is an excellent opportunity to do so. And the application process is just a simple online application. However, you only one person selected every institution. So whether your university is part of that member institution, and definitely reach out to past participants of the ANZIC program, because they'll be able to share their experience with you regarding what they've disliked, what they've learned. But it's an excellent process where you learn leading researchers. The one I went to was the Queensland, where I learned from professors in UQ and QUT. We also was able to go to a field trip at Heron Island, so that was an amazing experience there. You literally saw a first-class wildlife and operations there, so that was a very unforgettable experience. And applications are still open but closing soon, is in Fiordland in New Zealand. So you literally go out on a little vessel and you collect scientific data such as activity, depth, and temperature. So I definitely recommend anyone to apply. So I was an undergrad when I applied, but The other opportunity that I wanted to share is the Capstan Sea training voyage that I recently went on a few months ago. So this opportunity is quite competitive as well. And again, it's limited by one person per member institution. So I'm part of the University of Western Australia. So I was one of the Western Australian participants on board. So this is really good as well. These two opportunities share a very good strength in that you mingle with different students from different universities, and you understand their experiences, what they've learned, and you can share like, oh, I've never learnt about this because, or especially for me in Perth, I was focused a lot on the Lewin Current or on the bathymetry of the West Australian coast. So I never really got exposed to more of the biological side of marine science. So this was a fantastic way. It's a 2-week on-sea program, so you're on board CSIRO's RV Investigator, and you conduct scientific research alongside researchers who nominated themselves to be there, and that they have a massive range of different specialties, from a petroleum geologist to a lot of oceanographers actually, and biologists. So the activities on board sort of range from what you'd like to get out of it. There are things like mammal observation on the top deck, so you're actually observing, trying to identify the species of mammals or birds, the number of them, and those will contribute to a final scientific report that will be published after the voyage. In the center bottom photo, I was also launching something called an XBT, which is like firing a little copper wire that measures the temperature and depth profile, and it also gives salinity data. In the bottom right photo is the operations sort of lab where we analyze all of the side scan sonar signals. So that's something I'm interested in, particularly as my career is more focused on earth sciences. Yeah, but these are excellent opportunities that you should definitely apply for. My advice for any applicants is for the ANZIC one, to look at the different themes. So on the top, we have 5 themes, and this may vary a little bit every year, and to sort of tweak your response according to what the themes are. Whereas for the capstone one, to try and really understand the vessel and its capabilities. So I myself was really interested in seafloor bathymetry and sonic waves. So my application was fine-tuned to using the side scan sonar, tongue twister, technology, who actually taught me how to use those skills that I was immediately able to apply back to my coursework at university. What was also done on board was we also investigated like a few projects. So my project that my group focused on was the harmful algal bloom of South Australia. So it's always something that's really dynamic, recent, that's impacting Australia. And so we looked at the industry impacts. We had a look at chlorophyll A data. We took a lot of eDNA data and also analyzed and interpreted that. So even though I wasn't a specialist in any of this, I learned from actually doing the procedure. So there's a lot of physical exposure in this program. And really the scientific output, it will all be published in a journal afterwards. So it's actually a really incredible opportunity that I recommend to apply for. Another piece of advice for application for the capstone program is to, there's a question in the application asking what you think is the major issue, like revolving or impacting ocean sciences. And so a lot of applicants will tend to say climate change or be very broad and general about the answer, but that's not exactly what the program assessors or the judges are looking for. I can speak to a little bit about my experience of what I wrote. So I was talking about the human experience, how there's an increasing number of marine scientists that are retiring, and with them, they're retiring with skills such as onboard experience that young professionals should also get exposed to. So I sort of drafted my response to catering to that issue as well. But that's basically it about the opportunities. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the Q&A later. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Matthew. And Chantel for the last program of this webinar.
Thank you. What an inspiring group of speakers. I definitely do not have imposter syndrome right now. So my name is Chantel. Is that sharing? Can everyone see that screen? Excellent. That's great. So I'm a mathematician, a little bit left field from everything we've heard before. And so I'm going to start a little bit left field. Yesterday, I met a diplomat from the EU, and she told me that her career had peaked because she got a posting to Australia. And this reminded me that we really do live in the most incredible country on earth. And all too often, we either forget this or we don't recognize that. So often we don't realize the amazing opportunities that we have access to here in Australia. And instead we search for global opportunities and communities abroad instead of looking for recognition in our own backyard. Now, the ABC has long been an institution that connects all of Australia. No matter where you live, how much money you earn, everyone has access to the ABC. And this is the reason that I decided to apply for the ABC Top 5. In my opinion, it was an incredible tool. Yeah, but I sometimes, so apologies. So mathematics, I believe, is an incredible tool, but I don't think that in Australia it always has the respect or the utilization that it deserves. Mathematics has no barriers. Essentially, there's no stigma in mathematics. There's no stereotypes. Anyone can be a mathematician. So you need a book and a good teacher. And what I wanted to do was to let kids in the bush know that they could be mathematicians, that maths is everywhere, that maths is in nature, maths is in the bush, maths is in the city. It doesn't matter where you come from. And I believe that the ABC was a good way, a good means to connect people throughout the country and teach them about mathematics. And so that was essentially why I applied for the Top 5. So what was the Top 5 program? So we did the application similar to what everyone's mentioned before. There was an online form. There's a short video. Again, don't be scared. As was mentioned before, they're not looking for someone that's polished. They're not looking for the leaders in the field. They're looking for the people that have passion, potential, these sorts of things, and that want to communicate, and you have a reason to communicate. So one thing I would like to have known before I started the program was a little bit more about the program so that I could have utilized it a bit more effectively. But that said, the program's not over when you end. So essentially, it's a combination of what everyone has said before. So what you're doing is you would go to the ABC. We spent 2 weeks at the ABC last year in Ultimo. So you go to Sydney, you meet 5 incredible people in your field. So I was in science. I met other scientists that were doing very different things to me, and they were just as inspirational. Meeting these people was just as much of an inspiration as being at the ABC. And so we got the opportunity to meet with different people. Obviously, we met the iconic Dr. Carl, you can see on the screen there, and various people, Norman Swan. You can see we had a personal audience with the chair of the ABC, Mr. Kim Williams. We met Dr. Darren Saunders, the New South Wales Deputy Chief Scientist and Engineer. There were all these incredible people that we were given access to, and they gave us their time to tell us about what they were doing, and they listened to what we were doing. So it was a great way to build networks. Essentially, this all boiled down to gaining communication skills. So we learned from the best. Like, so you're put in a room with these people, and communication is it's what they do. This is their language. This is their bread and butter. And so they taught us tricks they would use. They gave us confidence. It was just incredible. I don't know really what else to say, but it was 2 weeks, very intense training, meeting people, and just people being generous enough to give us their time. And as I said, the program doesn't end there. So now you have these connections and you have access to people. So if in the future you do want to follow up with certain topics, certain research areas, then you have the opportunity to do that. So it's not that the program finishes once you leave. And yeah, I think that's all.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Chantel.
No.
So I hope everyone that's here today and watching online got a good sense of how these programs, but also many other programs that are out there, can help you explore your interests, meet experts in your field. Mentors as well are really important. These programs help you gain hard and soft skills, and they help you progress in your career and sometimes even personal development as well. So if the speakers don't mind staying a little longer for the questions, let's start with Maria. If you're still there. I'm trying to, I think you should be able to talk, Maria, if you're still, no. We can't hear you, Maria.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. I didn't have a question yet, but it was really interesting to listen to all the presentations and opportunities out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Would anyone like to ask a question? Remember, this is the time for you to get more information if you're particularly interested in a program. Okay, I see a message in the chat. No, just appreciate thanking everyone.
I have a question for all the other panelists. Having done the program, and I think Pablo partly answered this, gave his opinion, but do you feel that your communication is making a difference? These skills that you've gained, has it been worthwhile, and do you see it making a difference right, like now or into the future?
Feel free to unmute yourself.
I think I can say I feel like it has. I mean, when I was talking about the school visits particularly as well, that's the time that I felt like a real direct world impact. Like I've done some mainstream media and you don't get an immediate read on whether that's had an impact or not. So that's, I mean, you hope it has, but it's harder to say. But working with kids, going into schools, I've got, yeah, definitely feel like that's made an impact, if nothing else, just in terms of like visible role models and getting kids into careers in STEM as well.
Yeah, I agree. And like for me, I'm on a volunteer panel for my local government for their coastal hazard assessment, basically. And I've developed skills through these programs to um, have an awareness of how to communicate ocean issues in ways that is not just, you know, front of mind for people who are in the marine community, but other people in your community that maybe never go to the beach and stuff like that. So, yeah, having that sense to think bigger picture and to make those personal connections as a way of communicating science and issues in a way that people can understand and relate to, I found was really important.
Yeah, I don't feel like I have applied it as much as I want to yet, but I think a really big thing for this opportunity from my perspective is it shifted my idea of what science can look like, and engaging in these sort of discussions with the community, talking to people that weren't in my cohort and in my school and very environmental science related gave me a better understanding of the importance of really having your community understand and feel responsibility to engage in this, and how conservation really isn't just as much of an animal or ocean or environment issue as it is a really big people issue, and how we need to really treat these communities as proper stakeholders rather than just from an academia perspective where we look at where the money's coming from and the results we want to see.
Wonderful. Thanks for the questions and the answers. I'm just aware, and I don't want to keep everyone for much longer. So on the screen, for those of you who are still here or watching, it would be really great if you could give us some feedback on the webinar. And I just want to remind you, I don't know if the speakers would agree with me, but there are a lot of really cool programs out there. Most of them we don't really know exist. Hopefully today you learned a bit about some cool opportunities, and even the ones that have been discontinued, you know, maybe they will come back in the future, or maybe you will find some similar opportunities. I would just really strongly encourage you to use the internet to your favor. Look for things, you know, if you have an interest in diving, do a broad search, diving, program, scholarship. You know, if you have a country in mind, put that country in your search and just, you know, dig deep and try to find some other opportunities that might help you with your career. And with that, I would like to thank the speakers. Thank you so much for joining today and sharing your experiences. They all sound amazing, these programs. And thank you to the audience for joining us and for watching the recording later on. And I'll see you next month for the ECOP webinar in July. Thank you.
I think there's a question.
Was there a question?
There's
In the
another
chat.
one. You started yeah.
Yes. Excellent. Thanks for mentioning that, Matthew. With so many opportunities out there, how should you best manage your time? It also seems quite hard to hear about these opportunities. Have you got any advice on where to look? Thank you.
Oh, can I
I'm happy to
say?
give this.
Oh no, sorry.
No, you go first.
I'll say one quick thing. I didn't put a lot of time into my application. I literally did it one afternoon the day before the deadline because I'd thought about it for a while, and it goes like it was playing in the back of my head, but then you have imposter syndrome, you have all different things. So I think the main thing is just have a go. Like, you don't have to put so much time into it. If you're passionate about it, and you know what you're talking about, it'll come through.
I definitely agree with Chantel. You never know when, the application deadline just creeps until like the day of, and you're like, oh no, to submit my application right now. But I've got a good answer to this because as I'm both a geologist and a marine scientist, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to stretch myself so thin. I'm literally at a conference right now as well, so there might be some background noise. But how best to manage your time, and as an early career researcher, you should be taking advantage of as many opportunities as possible, because while you're young, people are still very willing to give you as many answers as possible if you're curious. So the first advice is to be very curious, and that's how you can develop confidence in both yourself and also your decision about what career you want to head into the future. So for me, I tried so many different things. So from mining to oil and gas to marine geoscience to marine science, all of that was to really gain headway of what aspects I did enjoy, what I didn't enjoy, why was that? And that really helps you gain a very wholesome and holistic picture of yourself, and an understanding of yourself is available. The other part is very difficult, but it's just like an internet search, or you speak with, if you're in university, speak with your lecturers. They'll be able to give you advice on projects that you may be able to help them with, or even with, you may be able to help PhD students with parts of their project. And that will expose you to so many different channels and people. And with a really good network, you'll be able to find opportunities incredibly easily. That's all. Thanks.
I was just going to also jump in on that and say, like, I had a rolling and have a rolling list of these opportunities, even if you're not eligible, because the deadlines, the amount of times I've gone, oh, actually, I'd love to do that program, and then I've just missed the deadline like the following year. So if you have a rolling list, so that you know, once I finish my PhD or once I finish whatever it is, then I would like to apply for this when I become eligible. And that's a good way to keep on top of like when roughly the deadlines are from the previous year and things like that.
Yeah, Shannon mentioned LinkedIn on the webinar chat, and I will go further and say that the ECOP Australia New Zealand node has a LinkedIn page, and we often repost opportunities that are shared on the platform, so you can follow that as well. And in terms of time management, I'll recommend that you guys have a look at what a learning and development plan is. That might help you structure things a little bit and figure out what you want to do at which stage of your career within, your early career phase.
Yeah, and just jumping in on that as well, I'll be quick. Sorry, Lydia. I'm going to oppose Chantel and Matthew respectfully and just say I put so much time and effort into the application. I knew it was highly competitive. I found it surfing on Twitter back when that was a thing. That's how long ago it was. And I also didn't really believe that I could get it, but I knew that I had a strong story for it. And that I think you should consider really a lot. When you're applying for an opportunity, be very targeted with your time. Time is very, very precious, even for early career people like we are. We may not be respected as much as people further down the line in academia. But our time is extremely valuable. So be really, really targeted. If you're going to apply for something, make sure you want it, make sure you believe in yourself, and make sure if you get this opportunity, it's a right opportunity for you. There were a lot of people that tried lying on their application that I later learned, or just maybe didn't fit perfectly with it, but I have flunked out on a lot of interviews, and the thing that gave me confidence with this interview was the amount of preparation that I did leading into it and the amount of potential that I saw myself having with that opportunity. So don't just apply to everything willy-nilly, would be my say. But if you think you have a chance, then I highly recommend it. Yeah, they change lives.
Remember that. Oh yeah, sorry. Go, Pablo.
I'll finish. I'll just answer the next question on the chat.
I was just going to say that different applications have different requirements. So a lot of people said contact past or current people that are doing the program. So that's always a good way to know how much time you're going to have to put into your application. There's also, would anyone like to comment on these questions, or should we go to the next question?
Got one last comment. I don't know if it's the way, but I like the Twitter thing just because I got the advice passed to me and I thought it sounded a bit silly at first, but it ended up working out and I found a couple of opportunities that way. But they do have these massive Facebook groups with environmental scientists and ocean conservationists and all this different type of stuff. And you can check, how often they're posting, how many members they have. And surprisingly, you can find some opportunities there. And it's worked out for me. I'm not saying that's how I'm gonna go for it every single time, but it's great to keep your eye open. And they regularly have postings, and sometimes things line up. So there's also that.
Well, thanks, Lydia. Pablo, I think there's a question for you there, whether the Rolex opportunity is still running.
Yeah, unfortunately not. Rolex funded this scholarship for 50 years, which is incredible. And I'd never heard of it before, a couple months before I applied. They have their own scholarship thing now. It's a grants-based thing. I forgot the name, Oyster Perpetual Movement, something like that. Sorry, Rolex. They have their own thing. The Australian arm of us are creating an opportunity in the future because previous scholars like me have benefited so much from that, and we want to give back, and we do have a little bit of funding. So I'll put my socials on in the chat, and if you want to follow me in the future, hopefully that'll be open. Someone also just put in the Explorers Club in there as well. They're a great organization that has a lot of different grants, and I just want to reiterate, if you find one that you like, just go for it. And if you get knocked back, don't let that stop you from applying 2-3 times. I met people who applied 5 times who then got the grant that changed the trajectory with a lot of things. So Explorers Club are a great resource for that as well.
Yeah, I just posted that in there. I have not got one of them, so I can't speak for that, but I know they have a Rolex associated scholarship. But the other thing I'd say is if you're applying for any of these grants I know they're really competitive, get as much feedback as you can from people who have been successful. Even if it's like a professional grant writing workshop or through the university, or if you have other successful people like Pablo might be willing to help look over your application, I don't know, but reach out to people and get as much feedback as possible.
Yeah, happy to. And connect yourself with your community. We talked a lot about it beforehand, but use your community. I worked at an NGO I volunteered for 4 years and then worked there for a couple of years, and always having ties with community, with research, with lots of things means that if they're going to empower you, if they're going to give you the money, it's not just you they're giving the money to, it's your entire community you're connected with. So if you sell your story in that way and really believe in it, then they don't have a reason not to give you the money.
That's really good advice, especially because many of these funders are looking for a really good story to tell and communities to support. So, any of the other speakers would like to comment, or any of the audience to ask the final question?
I don't know if I just missed this, but out of curiosity, which one of these opportunities were paid? I don't know if we can just do like a show of hands, because I'm curious if there's other people in the same shoes that are, paying off student loans and trying to go into stuff where they can still sustain those type of things but gain experience.
So my opportunity, the accommodation was paid for, some of the food, and travel if you needed to travel. My work obviously kept paying me while I was doing it because it's seen as, I guess, progression, learning. It's science communication is important. So in that sense, there was some funding, but it was limited.
The Superstars program is similar in that you have to be like who you work for have to sign off that they'll allow you to do the program in work hours. So it's not meant to be additional to your job. And they fully fund the travel that's required for it, but not any paid like salary or anything like that.
I think all of these opportunities have costs covered. So for example, travel and things like that, but I don't think any of them actually include salary. Lydia.
Mine didn't include salary, so I didn't have anything that I benefit from it. I got a lot of diving gear, which was very useful, and it included a large sum of money to spend on living expenses, so I didn't have to pay rent or travel expenses for a year. But I also didn't make any money for a year.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everyone for attending again. Thank you, the speakers, for joining. And I wish everyone a good afternoon and see you in a month.